Let's get rolling with the Wednesday wind down with Dan and Friends. I'm Dan Conger, he, him. And I can't look at comments when I'm trying to go through my stuff.
No, sorry.
I'm Dan Conger, he, him, and I am the host of this webinar and YouTube show that is for outdoor enthusiasts, people that like to get around and BS about outdoors, and people that like to drink with friends. And COVID we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, tonight I'm actually drinking boba tea, so completely different. Kelly, you're up top on mine. Would you introduce yourself, please?
I am Kelly Mamer, a friend of Dan's, constant hiking partner, summer backpack trip partner. Tonight I am Thurston Howell III because it's all about the luxury. And for all you old people, hopefully you get that. Anybody too young to get that, well, I'm sorry. And tonight is my favorite bourbon, which is Four Roses, because I'm all about the luxury.
Okay. Nice.
Dave, you're up.
My name is Dave Cowan. I'm a friend of these two guys, although not constant hiking companion, and et cetera, et cetera. And tonight I'm just going with some Comfort Glenlivet.
Just? Okay.
There's no jest about that. That's pretty good.
I know. Nice. So tonight we're going to talk about luxury items that you would take on an overnight trip, at least an overnight. So maybe it's just an overnight, maybe it's a week long, maybe it's a through. I don't know that Kelly and I haven't been on anything longer than a week. Dave, what's the longest backpack you've been on?
10 days, I think.
Okay, gotcha. So that's kind of our range of trips. Overnight to Dave's all the way up to 10. I think I'm maybe eight or 9 right in there. So luxury items. So let's start off with, what are your current luxury items? So Kelly, what do you consider right now on your trip, where you are on your hiking gear? What do you consider is some of your luxury items?
Well, I would say, because we're all about the weight. I think all three of us are kind of what you described as a weight weenie, constantly trying to, improve weight and take less stuff and figure out, the things you can live without. But I will admit, every single time I do a weekend trip around here, just an overnight, I always take my chair. My chair is now like 5 years old. It's probably close to 2 pounds. It's not one of the really nice new ones. It's not the ones that go back. But somehow, even just pulling that out on the overnight, I always figure, it's one night I can handle it. Even going to the desert when I've got the 12 pounds of water to go along with it, or the 15 pounds of water, I still take my chair. I will admit there's times on the week longs that I'm like, man, I wish I had that chair, because we typically sit on the bear can with the pad or something, and that's all fine. But there are some nights when you're just like, I wish I could just put my. Okay. Of course, usually you can find rock, so it's not a big deal. But on those weekend trips, especially in the desert, because I don't know, there's stuff on the ground that is sharp and pokey and stuff, and I love my chair. So that's my one luxury item that almost always I know I take, that is well beyond what I would typically take on a trip.
Okay. Dave, how about you? Would you have a luxury item that you like to bring, or that you sometimes bring?
I just recently bought a chair for weekend overnight trips.
Nice.
For that same sort of thing. On a longer trip, I wouldn't bother. I've got a foam pad I can sit down and just lean my backpack up against, and that's my backrest. And but yeah, it's nice to have the chair's nice on a short trip. And mine, I think, weighs about 1 pound. And yeah, you're going for one night. Doesn't matter what else. As you pointed out in the text thread, I've hauled more water weight in than that before.
Sure. Yeah.
Water weight.
Yeah.
So, I think my current luxury item, and this changes, but my current luxury item right now is electronics. So it's either a GoPro and batteries, or a decent quality external microphone to work with my phone. So I've been doing playing with more video work. So a mount for my phone and my microphone, or a mount for my GoPro. So that's probably my luxury item. Is I'm enjoy photography, and I'm enjoying video work more often, and actually starting to appreciate sound too. So Now, Thurston, do you still bring a tablet? Do you bring an e-reader still?
Well, I was going to say that's the other one, and that's one even on a week long. I mean, on a week long, I have to have a book, just because I like to read anyway, and I need something mainly because, as you guys would all know, I don't go to bed nearly as early as the rest of you do, so I usually have something to kill the time, or when you guys are doing your nap in the middle of the day, which I also somehow can't do. But again, I think we talked about this on an earlier one. It's one of those like leave it home now things, because the phone does everything. I already use it for the GPS and use it for camera and use it. I started leaving everything at home. And of course the phone works perfectly right, fine to read a book too. So I no longer take a book, but I still consider a book or a reading material, even on a weekend trip, a luxury. I don't know if it's a luxury. To me, it's a must have, because I just, I don't do downtime well. So when everybody's kind of down or it's quiet and everybody's doing something else, I don't go take a nap. I sit and read my book.
Okay.
So for you, the new luxury is going to be a battery pack to recharge your phone for your.
True.
Well, that's a really good function. It's interesting to say that, because I was thinking that like the battery to me is a luxury. Again, it's almost a must-have, because now that I use the phone, I need that. And I was actually thinking about it, and you guys know this stuff better than me, but if you're doing something like a through hike or something longer, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but to me, that's where you start looking at some type of solar charger. And I've heard good and bad about them and how they work. But to me, if I was doing anything longer than 9 days and, a battery, it's either take a real beefy battery, like something like a 20,000 amp hour, or take a solar pack. And now you're talking some weight and some efficiencies and everything else. Right. So,
now, Dave, do you ever consider adult beverages as a luxury, or is that more in the must-have category?
I consider that to be the ultimate luxury that I almost always have, but it's definitely a luxury.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah, well, and I have muled in adult beverages for others as a surprise on trips before.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because I was on a desert trip with you one time. So 16 pounds of water weight, and you bring out pints, a couple extra pints. I'm like, whoa, what is this? It was like, wow, that was impressive. And enough to share, right? It would be one thing to have I don't know what you guys are drinking, but I've got a nice IPA.
No, I brought a pint for everybody, and there were 7 of us on the trip, and then Sandra and Rich weren't drinking, so I was like, ooh. Well, I'm not taking this out. But yeah, my shoulders were a wee bit sore on when we got to camp on that one.
Yeah. So, and then probably the last, we'll close out luxury items with me on food, because I did one about dehydrated chocolate cake. So definitely food is one of my luxuries. And the dehydrated chocolate cake, I don't know if that quite falls into a luxury, but I have been known to bring an entire pie along on a trip. Other people have done cheesecakes, but I'll do like a berry pie or an apple pie. And if it's going to be warm, I'll put it in the freezer. So I'll just bring this, not a Costco size, but which that could feed a lot, but a pretty good size pie. And that's, yeah. So, pardon me. So Doug asks a question. Pardon me. Wow. Who has the heaviest luxury? So let's see. Is it six pints of beer? You can't hear whom? Dave, can I? Okay. So it's Kelly.
I can hear you.
Okay. So it's Kelly. Okay. It's all Kelly.
Quick, let's talk about him.
So well, let's see, the pie or the beer. I think probably that many beers is probably in excess of the weight of a pie. So maybe bringing beers for everybody is in there. Oh, whoa. Okay.
He's going to rejoin, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So Dave, what's your criteria for bringing a luxury item? Because to me, a definition of a luxury item is something you don't always bring. And it would be like, if you're right on that cusp, it's like, no, I'm going to leave this. So what is important for you before you're going to bring something?
Are you back, Kelly? Now you're muted. Kelly, you're muted.
There we are.
There we go.
Hi.
Yeah. So for me, right now, my current kit that I take, Yeah, on the short ones, I have the chair in there, but on longer trips, pretty much everything I take, I figure I need, with the exception of the booze, which is a like. But everything else, I don't feel that it's now at 58 and whatever 3/4 or more. The other thing I take that may have been luxuries in past years aren't anymore, like the not the Uber Light, what is that, the yellow pad,
Yeah,
the
an
2-inch
air
inflated
pad. Yeah.
An air pad, yeah, and an inflatable pillow. Been done the stuff sack with all my extra layers. Doesn't work, especially when it's cold and you don't have extra layers, because you're wearing them, propping up on shoes. The pillow is just nice to have. So
yeah,
it's a technically luxury. Went a lot of years without it, but now it's like, no, that's coming with me.
Right. Yeah,
I guess the umbrella could be the same, but it's earned its place in my kit every time I go out as well.
Agreed.
Makes
So
sense.
Kelly, what about for you, Kelly? What determines if a luxury? What determines if the luxury, if you're going to bring a luxury item or not?
I'd say that it's really, I think it's probably what you said is if it's the shortness of the trip, it's the duration of the trip, right? Because I think if it's a week long, then I'm basically taking the stuff that matters to me, but nothing more. But like you said, a pillow, or in my case, I have probably a little heavier stove than I probably could have, but it kind of matters to me because I really trust it and I want to make sure that it's going to work in every situation, even if it's miserable. So, on a week-long trip, but that's it. I don't take anything like a chair or anything that's beyond what I think I would normally take. So it really, I think for me, it's duration of trip. If it's an overnight, I could add 20 pounds and live with it. Or the only other possibility is if I'm going to the Grand Canyon with Doug, I will carry whatever weight I have to have the amazing meals that he feeds me for 7 straight days. So that's a little bit different. But typically duration is my dividing line.
So I think for me, it's duration and then maybe weight. So I think that duration makes sense, right? For an overnight, you can do a lot, right? I'll bring in a pie on an overnight. I'm not going to bring 2 pies or 3 pies on a week-long trip. That'd be goofy.
Why not?
Because reasons. The other one though that I just occurred to me that is a luxury item, but it's a luxury group item, is a camp candle. So I'll make a camp candle out of the bundt cake pans. So it's like a 14-ounce candle. Yeah, that's the weight of my sleeping bag, I think. The only thing
it lasts a lot longer when you burn it.
Why would you say such an awful thing?
My brain goes that way. Sorry.
The camp candle cost me 57 cents to make. You could almost add a 0 on the cost of that sleeping bag. No, not quite, but it's definitely cheaper than that, wife, honey. I mean,
I take no joy in staring at your sleeping bag, but I will say that camp candle it's one of those things like that. Yeah, again, it's a luxury for sure, but it's definitely one of those nice ones. It's appreciated, right? It just kind of makes the whole camp.
Well, and for me, I'll always make sure we're going to stay up and we're going to burn that whole thing, because I'll carry out the ashes, but that's about where it stops, right? I will not carry a full candle out.
How long does that thing usually last? I mean, could you do it like a couple of nights?
No. No, I think we only get about 2 hours out of it.
Yeah, 2 hours max. Probably.
Yeah, but we get some good flames out of it, because that might be a whole other thing to talk about is that craft of how to make them. Like it took me a while to figure out how to get a good flame and not smoke, because it's less cardboard and more wax and more oxygen. So
right.
Okay, so how about things that maybe previously you might have considered a luxury that not, and we kind of touched on a little of these, and I think for me, a chair was a luxury, and I've forgone a chair completely. So I can be Spartan on that one, and I'm generally, I was a little jealous watching, 3 of you with the chair in the desert last time. But I'm still okay with my Gossamer Gear 1/8" pad. But does anybody have anything that maybe was a luxury and it's no longer? It's it could be that. Yeah,
camp shoes kind of fall into that a little bit, maybe.
Yeah,
like that's one where I think last year was the first year I think we just didn't take them at all, and I didn't really miss it. I mean, we didn't have a ton of water, so maybe that's part of it. That's always one of those things. If you're going a lot of water crossings, might be nice to make sure your feet can just dry out at night or whatever. But that's probably one that falls to. I don't know if it's considered a luxury, but I mean, I guess anything you don't really need is probably a luxury, and that probably fall in that category.
But actually, Kelly,
on the cusp now.
Yeah, you're bringing up a good point, though, Kelly. Is anything you don't need is probably a luxury, but what you need is a sliding scale based on your experience. Dave, I'm sure you'll attest to this, right? Do you need a full tent or are you fine with the tarp? Well, my skill set isn't quite to a tarp and I'm okay with that. Your skill set, Dave, is good with the tarp. And so, what you need, or, camp shoes for water crossings or not. Well, that's a skill set thing. So there are things that you develop skills in, and it's going to change, right? So if you're just listening to this and this is your first or second year backpacking and you've never been on a week long, well, it's guaranteed it's going to be different.
True. Well, so shelter, of course, is mandatory, but like the last, and I haven't been able to get out the last couple of summers, one due to COVID and due to other stuff, but the last trip I went on for the 7 days and whatever 110 miles we hiked, I had a tarp with me that never came out of my pack. It was sort of my lower back support while I was sitting in camp because we had good weather. So it was just cowboy camping every night.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but I do take a Bivvy Sack with me, which goes in combination. And if it gets windy, the Bivvy Sack's golden because with the either an unzipped sleeping bag or a quilt, that's the one downfall is you can get gusts of wind can get in. So the Bivvy Sack at whatever 4 or 5 ounces helped eliminate that as a possibility.
Yeah. So while a shelter is mandatory, some sort of shelter is required, some people feel or believe, right or wrong, that they want the full enclosure, right? And they want something this air quotes,
I just mean
security of a tent.
You gotta have it because there are too many stories of people who, I thought the weather was gonna be good, and it changes. It's like, uh-oh.
Kelly, do you want
nothing?
Kelly, do you want to be the big spoon or the little spoon? Neither.
Nowhere to go with that.
That definitely makes you lovey there, Dan.
Yeah, it's funny that you said it is interesting. I was thinking about, because I had mentioned the stove before, and that sort of falls on the skill thing. I mean, I have a wind burner, and I know we were in a situation a few years back where we had to really, really, really fast get boiled water, and I think my stove was the one that performed just like that. And that made me think I always want to have that. But I know if I was really confident, I had more skills about how really to smartly put a windbreak up and to really think through where I put my stove and cook and everything, then I could probably cut some weight, right? But I haven't bothered to develop. I'm just comfortable with the stove I know is bulletproof. So I think that's kind of the flip side of luxury. I think you made a good point there that a lot of things we think of as either luxury or not luxury might just be related to your comfort level or skill level more than even comfort level, right?
It might be both skill and comfort, right? So like I've said that I'm okay with an 1/8" Gossamer Gear pad instead of a chair, not even a bear can. I'm mentally okay with that, and that has nothing to do with skill. That's just more what's my comfort level and what do I require. Now, when I have a bear can, I like that even better. But even when I have a bear can, sometimes for me, I'll just kind of lay out and be reclining on the Gossamer Gear pad. Where, I mean, the chair is nice. I'm okay with that comfort. Now, I think there's a good transition to what's not a luxury item. So let's talk about things that absolutely are not. And I'm going to start off with saying an air pad is absolutely not a luxury item. That is mandatory, required. I mean, anybody over, I'm going to make the blanket statement here and call me out on this one. I'm going to say you hit 40, you're going to have anything other than an air pad. And it might even be hit 30. Because when I was 18, I slept on those brown Ensolite pads. Anyone remember those?
Yep.
That got hard and brittle? I was fine on that. That was luxury for me, was a brown Ensolite pad. So it's like, I tried that when I was maybe I was 30 when I started backpacking again, maybe 25. I'm like, what the hell is this? This is awful. And
it's no fun anymore. Wait, I got a nice luxury pad. Oh, okay, it's fun's back.
So maybe the air pad is for all of us is not a luxury. So Dave, what about you? What do you consider not a luxury that I'm not going? If I don't have this, I'm not going.
Well,
put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Well, earlier you talked about the bag of clothing.
Yeah, you mean the pillow? The pillow to me
pillow
again
thing.
is the pillow thing. Yeah, I like to have the pillow. I did the bag of clothing, and I did the bag of clothing in cold weather where the bag of clothing was just a bag, and you're like, the next morning, oh shit, man. But the pillow's worth its weight. It's earned its place in the pack.
Right.
So that one's not a luxury for me.
It's definitely an edge.
Yeah, but also some of the to throw some of the ultralighters and the through hikers in on this. Some of them cold soak and they don't cook, and to me that is for the circumstances that Kelly mentioned. If you need hot water because someone I don't know what your circumstances were, but if someone gets hypothermic, the best thing you can do is supply warm water to them and get some internal heating. And if you don't even take a stove of any sort with you, then you're gonna have to jump in a sleeping bag, maybe with a couple of people to try and generate some heat. But it's gonna take a long time because you're hypothermic, and having a stove makes that go faster. Even if it's just something as simple as an Esbit stove that you can jump in your sleeping bag and sit there and shiver and wait for it. And go, God damn, these things are slow. But at least there's a source of heat that at some point will rapidly speed up the process.
Yeah.
So
I like Rob's comment because I like an air pad that I can raft the Colorado River in and risk your life. Oh, wait, he didn't add that part. I'm going to add that part.
Yeah.
Kelly,
if you're not in the Colorado River, it's going to be a heavy thing to carry.
Yeah.
Well,
Kelly, anything on that category?
I mean, I'd say that, like we said, a pillow. I would probably add, I mean, this doesn't really apply maybe, but hiking poles are one that they have a weight to them for sure. And I mean, as it is, I need it for my tent. And so it doesn't really matter. But if I didn't need them for my tent, I'd still take them. I'd still, either they're going to be in my pack or they're going to be in my arms as I'm, walking. But that to me, it's not a luxury anymore. It's just something that I want and need. Uphill, downhill, doesn't matter. It matters to me. And I mean, again, I know with the guys I hike with, not everybody does that, but for me, it's not really a luxury anymore. It's a must.
Right. And that stuff all changes. Cause one of the things I've noticed in this maybe it's the last year and a half, I'm not using trekking poles on day hikes at all, but I am always using them on backpacks. So might I ever switch to not doing on backpacks? I don't know. If I did, all of my tents require trekking poles. Yeah. So that would.
You got to find a stick. You have to find a stick and.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd say that isn't luxury as much, and it's just interesting because you talked about food, and I think Nikki said chocolate in the chat, but that's sort of the other thing when it's packing food. I mean, we all of us at least take dehydrated food and try and get the weight down and everything, but I don't really cut back on. I make sure that I have enough snacks that I really, 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 really like. Not just that I really like backpack but that I could sit at home and eat in my kitchen and be happy too. They might not have the calorie per weight, that a typical through hiker or light hiker would want. But again, I don't think it's luxury to give yourself a few things in your bear can that are like, you just know are good, and they're good no matter where you are. They're just good. So.
I'd probably say that's just good mental health, right? And for me, that's that dessert or treat midweek on a trip. That's a mental health thing because I don't, when I go out, the reason I go out is not, I will be Spartan, but I'm not doing it to be Spartan, to be. So if I can bring in one or two of those creature comforts and have a good time, then that's a win-win. Nice. Any other thoughts on luxury items? I think we're hitting it pretty well. I'm hitting all the points that I thought we might want to.
I think the biggest point is, like you said, it's sort of one of those things that luxury is a weird term as for a backpacker in some ways, right? I know it's Jim Kurtz. It's the first time I heard that you pack your fears kind of thing. But you reach a point where you just try and get your weight down to where you're comfortable. And then you get to a point where it's not really luxury anymore. Like it's either it's in my pack or it's not in my pack. If it's in my pack, it's not really luxury. It's just a thing I take. And if it's not in my pack, then I didn't need it in the first place. Right. So luxury there's not that many things. If you do a lot of backpack, you get to the point where luxury is just sort of, it's more like you define, it's just something that like a pillow or whatever I don't define it as luxury. I just define it as it's part of my kit. It's that simple, right?
That's interesting way of looking at it. I guess I'm kind of liking that. I think that's a really good summary, Kelly. Because
your first year necessities can become your third year luxuries, and maybe you skip them on your fourth year or something like that.
There are things like that you definitely start leaving at home. But once you start going year after year after year, you kind of reach the point where you might be trying to make things lighter, but you're not really leaving things at home anymore. I think that's maybe the way I see it.
I just had a side thought and then a left turn tangent on this one. So, and it's a good tangent. So one of them, like early was not luxuries. What you thought you needed was you thought you needed another pair of pants and thought you needed an extra two shirts and thought you needed an extra jacket. Right. But or that's packing your fears. Right. Then real quickly realize if it didn't come out of the pack, I didn't need it. It wasn't safety. So that was stupid to bring. Okay. But.
Well, so I'd take the devil's advocate. If that brings you great joy and the fact that you can somehow change out of 3 days smelly clothing and for one day not be so bad and that's good for you, then for the mental health aspect, that's also good. But you're going to have to sit upwind of me because I'm still going to be wearing the same thing.
Yeah. I bring a sleep shirt and a hiking shirt, and that's all I bring.
Exactly.
He doesn't even bring pants, for crying out loud. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's just the shirt. There's no shorts, no pants, nothing. That's but sometimes extra clothes can be a luxury if it's part of a costume.
Oh, let's not go there. That's not luxury. That's just stupid. Now we're just talking stupid.
There's not everybody goes out backpacking, does costuming, Dan.
What are you talking about? I don't understand this concept.
Well, the thru hikers costume, but they costume as homeless people most of the time.
True that. So nice. Well, awesome, guys. We kind of hit some good stuff. So, hopefully there's some good takeaways for everybody. And maybe I like Kelly's summary, right? Then maybe ultimately there is no luxury. There's things that you need and things that you learn that you don't need. And that might be, to Dave's point, it might be what makes you comfortable mentally or physically, or maybe it's something that slides with your skill set. I could roll with that. I can roll with that. Awesome.
For me.
Perfect.
So, guys, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun.
I was kind of, as I was getting ready to do my prep this week, I was starting to think, and I think it's partly because I'm in my heavy workload part of year. I start like, oh man, this is some work. And so to that end, I'm going to take a little break from the Wednesday webinar. So I'm going to be on a hiatus for a while. I don't know exactly how long. I'm going to kind of consider if I want to change anything or change timing or just pick it back up after a period of time. Because this is my busy season just as it gets hot, it starts slowing down. So I might pick it back up when it slows down, but we'll just kind of see. So anyway, I'm going to take a little break. So we will not be back next week, but I want to thank everybody for watching, and we will definitely see they'll definitely have stuff on YouTube too. So
perfect.
Kelly, Dave.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. Do appreciate you.
Thanks.
Work hard to get over it.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. See y'all.
See ya.